Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us here today. Apologies for the switcheroo earlier. There's a little bit of Murphy right there for you. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. First of all, thank you, Laura and JT, for having us. And not to forget the people all the way in the back of the room who are making this into a flawless production. Good job, guys. My name is Jeroen Hallard. I'm Vice President Production at PRG. For those not familiar with PRG, we are a global company, not just a gear provider, we're also providing services and people. Some of our gear, services, and people, one of the three or combined, show up on your productions across the globe and in North America. My team specifically deals with challenging and not really off-the-shelf serviceable productions. Today here, we got Ben and Derek, who I'm going to introduce to you in a minute, with us here today. And we wanted to talk, we heard today actually a few people talking about communication and education. I think Nicole did an excellent job earlier this afternoon, giving us some key insights about communication. What we'll do, we're going to do that as well, effective communication on set, but also explore a little bit the perils of assumptions in the virtual production realm. It's a technology that evolves at an amazing pace, constantly reshaping what we know and knew. And the last 5 years, for me personally, thank you pandemic, I've moved more and more with my team into virtual production and the challenges that come with that. One of my favorite toolboxes, I call this a toolbox, in the company is a simulcam solution. And that's what we're going to have here on the stage today. I'm going to show you a little bit of that. Simulcam, or as one DP once called it, the fancy cam. The reason why we're trying to push this onto more and more productions on set is the question we're asking DPs and directors alike. Why would you not want to shoot your movie? You've done all the work, all the time, spent all the money in Pre-Viz. You want to shoot it. You want to roll on set and you want to shoot it as you envisioned it, as you programmed it. So, without further ado, here with me today, Derek Cole, Ben Whittington. They both work both as a project manager in virtual production, but also as on-set simulcam. He doesn't like the word gurus. Derek, give it a...
Yes, there it is. I assume a lot of you already know what simulcam is. Yes, maybe. Simulcam is basically just compositing your Pre-Viz live on set. So, and what we've adopted since 2016 is the NCAM solution for our camera tracking. And I forgot what I was going to say.
So, doing it for
NCAM is a markerless camera tracking system. It basically builds a point cloud from natural features in its environment instantaneously. And the reason why Derek and Ben like to use it on set is because it's the only system that can be rolled outside and be ready in 15 minutes, except when you're in XR studios, without having anything basically pre-rigged on set. We use it on productions that would simply not have simulcam if this wasn't the case. It's not a matter of choosing the best solution for a job that's already in the bag. Getting the job at all is dependent on having the right solution. Derek was actually on the first Star Wars show within the big universe of Star Wars, which was Book of Boba Fett. And the team, the VFX team there on set, made it very, very clear that the system being markerless was non-negotiable because of all of the challenges that were on set. Difficult environments, outside environments, inside environments. So I'm going to ask Derek again, with the solution of simulcam at hand, what are some of the big obstacles and challenges? Is it just a tool to be used on set like an expendable, or does it give actually the production something useful further down the production pipeline?
I don't know what he's talking about.
One major, so with NCAM and outdoor Pre-Viz, we found that it is like he said, it's the only solution, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have difficulties. You'll find yourself in situations where no other solution would address your problems, but you're still gonna have, complications. So on Mandalorian season 3, we had a shot of this giant turtle that ended up being like an alligator when it actually got to final. But on site, there was this big lake, and all the water was moving on the bottom. All the top of it was sky. So you have moving bottom, no tracking on the sky. So we had to go off of just geometry in the horizon. So you can imagine there's not really anywhere to put stickers in the water or in the sky. There's not really any kind of Wi-Fi solution when you're out in a field. So it was really the only thing we could do, but it still takes effort. And that was a major challenge for us, but we still pulled off the shot by managing when to use visual tracking, when to go off the IMUs. Thankfully, with Anycam, you can actually choose when to shut it off and focus on which. And so we could restart, realign, go until we knew something was off, go off of visual tracking, go off of IMUs here. So it was and actually have a shot that worked. So it's something that's still very challenging, but also the only solution there.
On a set like this, there's obviously a lot of people working together. Communication is not always happening the way we think it is, and that's where assumptions come into play that will end up bringing some disaster to the actual shot. You guys have a beautiful example or a story to tell about the recent show. It's going to air August 20th on Disney Plus, which is Ahsoka, where at one point you had a stand-in framing the shot basically, and then as soon as Rosario walked on set.
Yeah, do you want to throw that one?
So during Ahsoka, the stand-in was about 20 feet away from the camera, and then when the actual Rosario came walking in, she actually stood right in front of the camera, and since this is a visual camera tracking system, it blocked my view, which then I wasn't tracking the set. So quickly, we had to try to work as a team as best that we could by having my tech run out and move the end cam bar so it was looking off to the to the left, and then I was doing the witness to main while the Unreal operator was doing the lineup. But we had to move fast, and that's why we split up the duties while on set.
We talk a lot about educating clients in virtual production, educating the crews in virtual production, but there's a huge difference between educating and arguing. Camera crew are not in a hurry to adopt new responsibilities, and as technology improves and filmmaking goes faster, production simply schedule more in less time. And I think, Ben, you had some good experiences with that about communication on a recent production we've done in Atlanta.
Yeah, that's the thing that we found the most important is that a lot of these productions that are on traditional formats, like where we're doing green screen, they're interested in the speed and servicing the shoot. And so the local 600's not interested in taking on a bunch of extra tasks when they're busy as hell, So the way to get accommodation from them is to show accommodation, be prepared, and also not feel entitled to certain things. We expect skepticism, we welcome it, and so we keep a lot of tools on hand to prove things. If people are, it's like virtual production, even though we've had the big boom, there's still a lot of veterans that are questioning it and are skeptical, and I think that's fine. I think that, if anything, that you should be prepared to prove things to them. Just prove your claims, then you'll gain trust. We had a example on a recent movie that we did in Atlanta, this Christmas movie, and there's this giant palace in the sky. So it was just palace, stars, and then it would come down, and then you'd see actors. And when they would just see the palace and the stars, they thought the tracking was broken, but there was a misunderstanding about the nature of parallax, because if a palace tower is so far away and then it's stars, you don't get parallax by moving 10 feet. And so we just had to quickly throw in an object in between there so they could see the parallax happening. Instead of arguing with them, we're just like, here, how's this? Does this look right? oh, okay, that's it. And we do that the same with measurement, scale, anything. If they want something proven to them, we prove it to them. And that gains their trust and that gains their respect, not arguing about how things should look or how they should work.
And it's still hard to improvise even with a simulcam on set.
Oh yeah, no, it's very hard to improvise. A lot of VFX soups have a bad taste in their mouth from teams that are not willing to try anything if it wasn't been pre-approved, because it is so hard to improvise on set for simulcam. Because with the wall, content's not getting shot unless tracking and animation is working. On a green screen, they can justify moving on in their minds, even if it's going to cost more in the long run. So what we always make a measure of, like, not saying necessarily yes, but we always say, and they're always very receptive to, can't promise, but we'll try. We'll give it our best. And when you do deliver something, they're ecstatic. No one's upset by that statement. That's what they're doing a lot of times, and they just expect the same from you. We had a really egregious example of that one day on Ahsoka. After a 14-hour day, we got asked for a crazy camera trick shot. Derek, if you could go over that.
The camera trick shot was basically Ahsoka needed to look like she was standing at kind of an angle, but we were shooting on a completely flat ground. So we had to stop the rotational value of the movement, so that way she was connected to wires. So in the camera with a Dutch angle, it looked like she was standing on the side, and then we would turn the camera and look like she would do a flip, but yet the plane would look like it never moved. So she looked like she did this massive flip from one side to the other. And that was essentially the camera trick.
And the big thing about that is that was asked at the end of the day. That blueprint had not been written. That was not a feature. Like today we're using Pixatope. It was not a feature of Pixatope. The blueprint was written to freeze that tracking on that roll there at that time. And again, within the frame of no promises, but let's give this a shot. Let's see what happens. And they loved that.
Great. Well, we're going to give it a little test. Is there a DP in the house? No. Then I'm going to Chinese volunteer Sarah behind the cameras. If you want to come up on stage. We not only have R2D2 here on stage, we also have all the way in the back of the room an AT&T.
Well, yeah. If I guess one of the things that this illustrates is how hard it is to estimate scale. So I guess the idea is, like, if something was 75 feet tall and like 40 feet away around in this direction, where do you think its head would be? Where you think it would be? Around there? So, a little short. Pretty close. So you can imagine if you have a 3-camera shoot and you're misestimating scale from 3 different angles, and now you have to fix all that, it compounds. That's the whole idea. Like, why wouldn't you want to see what you're shooting? It takes the guessing work right out of it. It's like, how would you get that with a tennis ball? It's something we always think about.
All right. I think we're getting close to the end of our 15 minutes here. One last thing, Ben, you and I talk a lot about is what's the demand for virtual production concerning chroma key sets?
Yeah, so with demand of chroma key, not all the demand comes from skepticism and low budgets. Like, we work with ILM a lot. ILM is not just has not just invested in LED; they're pioneers of it. They've really developed a lot, and they schedule a profound amount of chroma key. I mean, we are always busy on their shows, and we are always shooting on green screens, blue screens. And I think that shows that, like, while that demand might change as technology progresses, the demand that's there is rational. It's not just based off of skepticism. People that develop the technology are saying, "I want this on a chroma key." And you'll see very specific situations, kind of like this, where you have a certain amount of scale, a certain amount of set, and like we had a set that was a giant forest that was twice the size of ILM's biggest volume, and the shots involved ceiling, down, a ship hovering, eye lines. There's just no way to do that right now, and ILM knew that because they have a huge volume, and they were just like, all right, this needs to be scheduled over here, and so there's still a gap to be filled because the problems that LED solves for those shoots doesn't go away. They still have those visualization problems. And so even though you can't close the gap to the point of final pixel, you can close the gap more and catch a lot of problems, a lot of scale problems, a lot of, and then also just increase morale because, I mean, who wants to look at, green screen for 6 months, It's when you're actually seeing content that just helps your mood.
Great. Thank you, Ben, Derek. Thank you, everybody here. This concludes our little presentation here today. Thank you.